There is no Josh today, as you can probably see, but I do have a guest. And I have a little secret for you guys. I became a Meg person. Cue the music. Hello everyone, it's me, Bigpod, and as I said earlier, I don't have Josh here, but I do have a guest. Say hello to Derek, aka Distrotube. He is a YouTuber, creator, dare I say, influencer, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself more.
Sure. I'll introduce myself. I am Derek Taylor, also known as Distrotube, also known as DT, and welcome to this week's edition of the No Tux Allowed podcast. I am your host. Well, I've taken the last year off, but I was here late in 2024, and I had to, take a small little break, but I'm back, and I've got my guest Bigpod with me today. I'm going to ask him a ton of questions. We're going to talk about Linux, free and open source software. We're going to talk about AI. We might get into some pop culture kind of news. I'm sure at some point rockets and space will come up. So stay tuned, and I'm looking forward to this episode. Welcome, Bigpod.
Hello. But before we continue, I do have to tell you guys about our Patreon, where you can donate money for our servers that you all know we have, that host our self-hosted version of the audio version of the podcast. You found at show.tuxbase.com, and if you want to have a premium feed from there, all you have to do is support us monthly with a measly $5 a month.
I mean, that's less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Guys, hit the subscribe button, hit the join button, whatever it is, to subscribe to that Patreon, because you need this podcast. We need your help. And it's a couple of bucks. You pissed away $5 this morning on a sausage biscuit at McDonald's. You can support this podcast.
And I have to warn you guys, in just a few days, on 26th, we're going to have a live recording where you will see me and Josh talk about things live and rich chat. And maybe some of you will even join that. We're still in the process of getting that sorted all. So we're going to see what happens. But it's going to be recorded live, and then maybe we're going to have a live stream of me editing it also live, which is always a fun endeavor. Bigpod editing the podcast.
I'll be looking forward to that on the 26th, because I'm going to get the YouTube notification. You know why I get the notification, Bigpod? Because I click the bell down below. You guys click the bell so you get the notifications every time these guys go live.
So now we're gonna talk to our, I guess, host, DT, and first I would like to ask you, how are you and AI?
Well, me and AI get along great, because ever since the early days of AI, when it was first being talked about and hyped up a little bit, I kind of recognized its potential. So yeah, every time a new large language model comes out, I want to play with it. Every time I see one of these tools that helps generate audio content or video content or images, I want to play with it, because I think these things are extremely useful. I think obviously they change people's workflow. I know they've changed some of what I do with my workflow. Like, obviously I'm a content creator, and I've got a pretty rigorous schedule. On average, I make a video practically every day. I average about 7 videos a week between the 2 YouTube channels I manage, plus the occasional live stream, plus sometimes I appear on other people's streams. So I even, sometimes I do prep work for that. And a lot of times, if I need research on something, I'll ask ChatGPT or Gemini or, Claude. I play with all these tools, Llama. If I already kind of know what I want to talk about for a video, I'll give one of these chat assistants some bullet points. Hey, flesh this out for me and I'll tell it a time length. Otherwise, you could get a crazy script. Hey, I only want to be on this topic. 3 minutes. Give me what I need to hit. That way, because I talk a lot. I can turn a 3-minute video into a 30-minute video the way I BS, right? And so these things can really help keep you focused and on track. And of course, they save you a lot of time too.
Yeah, but besides the fact that AI is being from, well, corporations rammed down our throats at every step of our lives, there are also other downsides like RAM and SSD shortage,
right?
And energy problems. But let's first focus on that RAM and SSD shortage,
Sure.
Especially for us consumers. What do you think about that, DT?
Well, it sucks when you're building a computer, obviously. I am lucky because, every few months we get one of these when it always affects different things. Sometimes it'll be GPU shortages, chip shortages, CPU shortages, RAM shortages. It varies. But this time around, because it's a RAM problem, I'm lucky because just a few months back, I upped the RAM in my home computer. So I got ahead of this. I've got 32 gigs in my home computer, which is plenty for what I do on that machine. This machine, I've been rocking 64 gigs of RAM in this for at least 2 or 3 years, more than enough for what I do with video content creation. So I don't have to buy RAM right now. So I dodged that bullet. But I understand those people that are maybe building a new machine and looking at those RAM prices. Yeah, it sucks. I would say, though, unless you really need that RAM or that new computer right now, a lot of times if you just wait a few weeks, this will all be over soon.
I don't know. There are like market monitoring bodies are saying like months, if not years, of this being a problem.
No, they're just trying to scare people. They want people to go pay them high prices. Don't get suckered in by that stuff.
Well, there are multiple reasons for that. They state the multiple reasons. Like, for example, there is supposedly a silicon wafer shortage, which is a
They've been
giant
saying
problem
that for years.
because the RAM is made out of silicon wafers.
Heck, they've been doing that for decades, saying that we're going to run out of silicon. It's always a shortage with it. I mean,
yeah. And remember, like, there are only 3 real manufacturers of RAM: Micron, Samsung, SK Hynix, and things like Micron just essentially went to enterprise space only, which means for us consumers there's even less RAM. And when you read titles like 40% of all RAM market will be consumed by a single project, by a single company, that kind of brings, like, if that is actually true, that kind of shows why there is shortage. Because well, if it's called Project Stargate by OpenAI, that is like 40% of all the market for RAM that will be consumed by it. And on other hand, you have energy problems, which DT, you I remember you talking about it before. You actually know a bit about that, at least more than me, since you live near those places.
well, I live near one that's being built and will be up and running in a few months. Where I live, probably about a 45-minute, maybe 30-minute drive from where I'm at. Meta is building a gigantic data center out in the middle of just the woods, the swamp, just out in the middle of nowhere, because you need a large bit of land where nothing exists, basically. They're going to build this huge data center. They're going to build a town around it. They're going to build subdivisions of housing for all the thousands of people that'll have to work there. They're going to have to build a power plant. They got pipelines and stuff. Like, it's a gigantic construction project that's going on right now. And yeah, I do wonder about the power consumption for these. They're basically cities, these data centers. At least the way they're being built now, they're so huge. You do wonder, because everybody's building these. Microsoft's building a ton of them. Meta's building a ton of them. Amazon, Google, they're building these huge data centers that are just power hungry. And some of them, they're building their own power plants to power them. Some of them, though, are going to suck power from the existing power grid. And of course, that's going to cause everyone's electricity costs to go up. So
Yeah.
when you look at your electric bill, you're going to see a little extra there. Why? It's because Amazon and Meta are using the power grid, right? So
Well,
that worries me a little bit.
I do remember reading, I believe it was in Texas, they actually had to implement power rationing times because of those data centers.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that to me is just insane. And
And I think that might have been Microsoft. I'm not 100% sure on that, but Microsoft was looking at some land out in West Texas, which is empty, mostly desert kind of land. And they were building, some big data center out there somewhere. And yeah, it was going to cause some issues. I think they were also trying to build their own hydroelectric power plant to power it.
yeah,
Which
Microsoft,
always worries me when you start damming up local rivers. Like, what are you doing to the wildlife, and the ecosystem that already exists there? So,
Microsoft even paid quite a bit of money to restart a nuclear reactor. I believe it's on 3 Mile Island, or
yep,
what's the name of that
yeah,
island?
it's in Pennsylvania, 3 Mile
Yeah.
Island. Yep.
Yeah, it was at one point place of nuclear disaster, but it's not that reactor. It's another reactor that was actually shut down a couple of years ago. So,
Yeah.
so it's not actually a bad reactor.
Well, nuclear is way different. Like when the accident at 3 Mile Island happened, you're going back many decades ago,
Yeah.
and a lot of the big nuclear meltdowns that have caused problems in history, they all happened, 1970s, 1980s.
Yeah.
You really haven't had any of that now because.
Well, you had one in 2010s in Japan, but that
was
wasn't-
caused by an earthquake.
it was tsunami, but yeah,
well,
like
the
natural
earthquake caused the
disaster.
tsunami, right?
Yeah,
or
by a
but-
natural disaster, not by a human error or a manufacturing error.
No, but now the way they're building these things, they've gotten a lot better because you have to have these huge structures that are very strong, built out of steel and concrete. And we are able to build concrete now that is many times stronger than the concrete they could build in the 70s and 80s. And that's why you don't hear about because these power plants, there's hundreds of nuclear power plants probably running around the world, and you never hear any issues with them now because of just
And monitoring and understanding of what we're doing has improved greatly.
Yeah.
But they did mention that AI is being rammed down our throats basically everywhere. What do you think about AI on your TV, on your smart TV, like LG TV, which has a Copilot app, which apparently is not actually being able to be uninstalled?
I don't think about it at all, Bigpod, because I don't have a TV. Because
Okay.
I don't even like TV. Like, I have problems with a lot of the stuff on TV, a lot of the content. I don't do TV. So, but as far as smart TVs, I understand. Like why would I need an AI or a chat assistant or something to help me do what? Change the channel? Like,
Wow.
what do you? I don't understand the point. Like,
well, maybe you were watching a movie, like let's say, I don't know, with their movie, and you want to know who played in that movie, or what actors on the screen right now, because that happens to me a lot. Is I see an actor, where do I know that actor from? And now I'm opening IMDb pages and going, who is this actor? Here is that's where I know him from.
I guess I could see some things like that, but it's one of those things. Like, AI tools in certain programs make sense because they're very important and you would use them all the time. Like these really niche things, like how often would you use the AI assistant in a TV? It would probably be such a rare event. I'm not sure that it's worth it.
There are also accessibility usage cases.
Sure.
And
well, you always have like voice assistants in these things, but that's a little different than an AI, right? It's
for example, here, my IPTV provider, which is biggest telecom in the country, has basically their box, and they give you a remote that doesn't even have numbers on it. all it has is couple of buttons. The one among them is the microphone button, and you just tell into the remote what
Yep.
channel you want, or or if you want to go to one of the streaming apps, and that's all you have to do.
No,
And that is fairly useful, but for that I don't need a copilot.
right. Right. And you got that here in the U.S. too. I see people with their cable providers or streaming providers or whatever, they'll have these remote controls. It's basically you just push a button. It's a push to talk kind of thing where you don't actually change the channel with the buttons. You tell the voice assistant, hey, go to this channel or set this setting or, whatever.
And that can be fairly useful when you have 500 plus channels on your box, and you might not remember the number for, I don't know, Eurosport or something like that.
Yeah.
But you know that it's called Eurosport, so you tell it. It is I use it quite a lot, but there is a difference between this and a chatbot.
Yeah. And the AI being everywhere. I mean, technically, you could find some use for AI in everything.
Of course.
But where does it make sense, really? Like, I can understand having this integrated into a word processor or spreadsheet program or a video editor or audio editor or, I don't know, your photo manager. Like, so there's some things I could understand why they're there and the uses for them. Like, it's kind of obvious why they would be there. And then other things, I'm like, does freaking Zoom need an AI built in? And it's like, no, it doesn't need to be
maybe. The big problem is we're all the things we're implementing are all LLMs.
Yeah.
We should, like, for example, AI, let's say an AI asset manager for, I don't know, your video collection, because you're a creator. You might at one point need an media asset manager to know which video you did what and so on, so you can, like, I don't know, pull clips or something. And it may be a useful thing to have, like, sentiment analysis, like text to or voice to text, speech to text detection, and even things like TTS. All of those are, or not TTS, OCR. All of those are AI usages.
Oh,
but
yeah.
none of those are actually LLMs
Right.
that should be used for that. That
Right.
should use different type of model.
For example,
that's
one of
a
the most common
big
ways
problem.
people use, one of the most common usages for these chat assistants is sometimes translating from one language to another. But do you need a LLM for that?
Maybe. That is one of the things you might need, because most LLMs are trained on multiple languages. So they might have some of that much better understand, because it is you're dealing with language.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, do you need a LLM to tell you what's on the picture?
No.
Yeah,
Well-
that's a problem.
And I guess. Well, if you,
Or maybe what you need is two models. In reality, what you would need is two models. A model that gets the image, outputs a LLM readable description of an image, then LLM builds out a actual, like, this human readable description for the image.
yeah.
That's what you actually need. Like, problem is what we're doing today is we're trying to cram LLMs everywhere.
Yeah.
Where more specialized models are far better. Or what we actually need is a model that actually is in reality multiple models working together.
Yeah. Well, I
A
think
more general model.
I think anything you're doing where the workflow is mostly text anyway, like I get having an LLM built into it. But
Yeah.
do I need LLMs in my game client, or do I need a LLM when I'm doing my online banking, for example?
No.
Like, do I need? Right, come on, I don't need
Or
that.
do I need an LLM to handle my calendar?
Yeah.
I may want an AI to handle my calendar.
You see a lot
know?
more of this, actually. The idea of the LLM is your assistant that schedules
Yeah.
everything for you. And I don't know if that's healthy for people, even if they use it. Do you really? Should you be so unable to manage your own schedule that you have to rely on technology? I'm not sure that's a good thing, even if it works for you.
Well, remember, people have relied on other people for that, like
I could
when they
understand a
are a
business,
boss
but
or
I'm talking
something.
about, yeah, I'm not talking about like a company that has 100 employees that they have to manage. I'm talking about just you and your personal like daily schedule. Like, do you need Chat GPT to tell you what you need to do today?
No, but sometimes it might be a good idea to get a nice output of what today I'm doing instead of looking at the 100 things I have on a calendar. That sometimes happen, and what is actually important and what is not.
So you're arguing that the AI should be in the calendar now.
I'm arguing a purpose-built AI should be in the calendar. Yes.
Okay.
But what I'm not what I'm saying is maybe it shouldn't be an LLM. Maybe or LLM should be what outputs to you, but isn't the thing that manages for you. That should be a purpose-built AI that is literally does the role of an assistant or a human assistant. Or in reality, what we would want isn't like essentially a Jarvis or something like that, like an actual like assistant. But
Right.
but LLMs don't actually get that role, in my opinion, because they are a statistical, a fair simplification, statistical model of text. What word should come after what is was already written?
No.
It's not actual thinking.
No.
But
One of the things I will say, since if we're talking about how LLMs have evolved, especially as we end another year, we're about to start a new year. These things are so much better than they were a year
yeah,
ago. I mean, it's
yeah,
night and day.
definitely.
It's crazy, and I just wonder how much better they'll be. Like if we were talking at the end of 2026, where will these tools be? And I
Yeah.
have no idea. I don't think you do. I don't think anybody knows where all of this is going in the end.
I think it will. I think it will highly depend on how research goes, or how they will decide still continue deciding to ram LLMs a solve everything thing. That's gonna end in disaster, in my opinion.
Well,
We
eventually
will
we're going to
hit a
have the
plateau that will basically crash the entire market.
we're eventually
But
going to have LLM OS. It's going to be a Linux distro, by the way, but it's going to be nothing but LLMs everywhere.
well, since you mentioned Linux distros, and I do know Josh would be fairly unhappy if I continued AI talk for far longer. Uh, let's talk about a ever present issue of Linux. Do we actually have too many distros?
Whether the answer is yes or no, I don't think it matters because there's nothing anybody can do about it. So it's one of those things. It's an interesting discussion as far as if you just want to go through the mental exercise of talking about the pros and cons of having a few hundred Linux distributions. That's interesting, but at the end of the day, it will never change. If that makes
Well,
sense,
yes.
because of the nature of it. So for me, I would say, yeah, if it's a strictly binary choice of yes or no, I would say no, but I could see the argument for the people that would say yes. But either way, those distributions are not going anywhere. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to
Yeah.
stop Joe Blow from building his distro? Well, no, you can't. So
You can't.
there's nothing to talk about.
It would be a good idea to stop him, and it's not for any like choice reasons or whatever without. The reason is very simple. There is too much duplication of work.
Yeah, but a lot of these people are not trying to do any real work. They're just doing it for fun. They're doing it as a learning project. It's not like they're taking effort that they would have put anywhere else. It's kind of like the old argument. You remember Napster? and pirating music.
Well,
And
I know of it.
Right.
I don't remember it.
But you remember
that time.
how that was a big deal with the music industry, especially, and then the whole being against piracy and everything. They were trying to stop all of that. And the thing was, hey, all of these people that are stealing our music, if we stop them, they pay for our music. Like, no, they probably wouldn't, because if they were willing to pay for it, they probably would have just paid for it.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing with these people that the duplication of work. Well, they weren't going to do this other work that some people imagine they would do. They were never going to do that anyway. So just let them do what they want to do.
Well, I do think that there is some that would do. Like, for example, if people who, let's be honest, if Ubuntu was Debian would be far better and would be better than Ubuntu is if people who were instead of working on Ubuntu worked on Debian.
I'm not sure that's a great analogy, though, because in many ways Debian and Ubuntu are the same project, or they're the same project, because Canonical contributes a lot to Debian because they know they build on it. So we could probably pick a two different distros other than those two, because they're very tied to each other. Maybe a better example, Manjaro and Arch.
Yeah.
Because Manjaro really probably doesn't do anything for the mainline Arch distribution. They probably do a little something, but it's not like Ubuntu really does drive a lot of Debian development. So,
and like these kind of things, like there are people who are very much into their distro, we want to make it big, but at the same time they base it on something, or their work would in many ways be better served if it was on their upstream. It would, because like simple reality is there always
better
will be
served
too little of contributors for anything.
Well, the problem here is too many people are wanting, when people complain about this stuff, they're typically wanting people to work on things that they want them to work on, not what that person actually wants to do. Like when you say they would be better served to quit working on these projects and go work on something else, who's better served? Not the person that we're talking about that's maintaining that open source software, because they like doing what they're doing, or otherwise they wouldn't be. I'm not sure what they would get out of stopping working on, say, distro A and go work on distro B,
Well, actually, here I actually have to disagree. Another example of that is we are essentially about multiplying the work of packaging about 10 times right now.
Oh, no, it's more than that. But yeah, I get the point. it's much bigger than that.
I'm going to say approximately 10 times.
Yeah.
It's probably bigger, but I don't think that's bigger by much. But like there are about six major package managers, and all of them have
there's many smaller ones too.
Packages.
But yeah. But if you're talking about the big stuff, apt, Pacman, DNF, like you get in, but then you get into Nix packaging, Geeks packaging, like you get homebrew, like you get into weird stuff.
Like what I'm trying to say here is that like all of that requires like 2-3 packagers almost per package if you do not have much automation. So, and even if it requires one packager, remember that's at least 10 packagers across the Linux ecosystem to, in many cases, essentially package the same way, the same package across at least 10 different channels.
Well, if we're going to go down that road, should package managers even exist? Because if we're going with the oldest distribution, Slackware, were they right? Should everything just have been a sudo make install and you just compile it from source?
No, that is a bad idea.
You don't like that model?
No, I don't like that model. But I think that we should start consolidating package managers and consolidate them not in just. And I know this won't happen.
Yeah, because you consolidate them. Guess what? The next day, somebody's going to, I don't like that package manager. I'm building a new one.
Or should I say, we should consolidate on package formats. but maybe not package managers.
That still won't, because as soon as you consolidate on one package format, it's the same. We saw that. We've seen this recently when all of a sudden most of the Linux world, not all of it, but a large percentage of the major Linux distributions, the ones that matter especially in server and enterprise, they all adopted System D.
Yeah.
And then immediately, like that next second, protest distros started springing up. We're forking Debian. We're forking Arch. We're ripping out System D. And of course, I'm talking about the Dev 1 and the Artix distros that were... I label these protest distros, and some people always think I'm making fun of these distros. I'm not. When I say protest distro, they're literally, that's why they exist. They're a protest. They're in protest. They serve no other purpose than it's a big FU to Debian and Arch. And I'm not making a moral judgment on it. That's just what they are, right?
Actually, I don't think that's a major problem for my argument.
Huh.
What I think is that because those are in reality a small effort, and they do allow for things like research, for things like development, for betterment. But there is a difference between, like, we are literally already a small team. We're literally splitting apart in many cases equally into many silos, which essentially do the same thing.
Well, here's
in
the
my
thing.
opinion, we should split. First of all, we should split the work into two silos: the system package manager and application package manager. System package manager is what you build your distribution from. So where you have your desktop environments, kernel,
it's all a nice
system D.
Yeah, it's all a nice thought, and you can plan it out, but literally no one's going to follow it.
But remember, we're a podcast.
So that's the problem.
We should talk about that stuff.
Well, again,
like that.
it's a great mental exercise.
What is the best case scenario for us?
Yeah,
and
it's a great mental exercise, and I don't mind going through it. But there will be people that listen to it that imagine, dang, Bigpod's got it all planned out, and if everybody would just, and then you get people's hopes up, and especially new to Linux users, because I think those are the ones that really struggle with this. They get over here and they see all of this, quote, fragmentation, right? And then they think, well, one day it'll be different. And I was like, no, it won't. So don't ever expect all of a sudden one day there's going to be one distro, one package manager, a net system, hell, one display server even. Like we've been struggling with X versus Wayland now. Wayland's been in development for 16 years. Oh my goodness. Now you're a GNOME user. Your experience is pretty good. So that's great. For most of the rest of us that would like to try Wayland, but we don't want to use GNOME, we're still waiting. And the fact that it's 2025, that hurts my heart a little bit. I wish Wayland was a little further along. It's getting there.
Well,
but
that to me is honestly a problem of splintering. Problem of that, like, there are so many different development efforts. Like, even in Wayland, you have like something like 20 different compositors that are trying to get done. Why not? And many of them do the same thing. Why not go and work on one? Like, try and be purposeful in what we're doing. Not just everybody try to pull their own cart while two carts go in the same direction.
Well,
you could easily just push a little bit the other cart. And
I would agree with you here,
both of you
Bigpod.
or all of them would go really fast while everybody's trying to push their own cart.
My thing is, I don't like when people say people should quit working on this, go work on this other thing, when the two projects do vastly different things. But in this case,
I agree with that.
What you're saying here makes perfect sense. Like, there are some of these Wayland compositors that you're right are basically all trying to do very similar things, if not the exact same thing, but similar enough they could pool their efforts a little bit and help each project. They could combine efforts on, for example, the compositor itself, and
Yeah.
then and put whatever kind of, lipstick on it for their particular flavor of window manager or whatever that they're trying to
Yeah.
build.
And
Yeah,
that's
I
what
think
I'm
that makes
trying
sense.
to like. That's what I'm trying to get to is let's be more purposeful.
Yeah.
Like the problem with Linux community is that we're not actually purposeful. We pretend we are, pretend we want Linux to succeed, but when it gets to things actually need to be done, we all like to pull cards, our own cards, instead of trying to work together, be purposeful, even if we're in reality trying to take the same path to get
I
to
think
the destination. We're gonna try and push our own card just so that we feel better instead of trying to get to the same destination
right.
together with someone else.
I think one of the
I've
things you mentioned too is it's a lack of manpower. Why they need to start combining efforts. This may be getting a little better in the future, Bigpod, because in the last year, I mean, we've gone from 4% to 5% to 6%. Like there's
Yeah.
as we get more Linux users, naturally there'll be more people contributing to software in the Linux space, and maybe this manpower issue, I mean, it'll always be there for smaller projects, but for some projects, maybe we'll improve a little bit because we're gaining millions of users like
Yeah.
every month practically, it seems like, on the desktop. So
Another thing that I do think might actually we should probably start thinking about as Linux desktop users is start to, I'm not gonna say incorporate, but start to pull together resources into foundations. Like I'm gonna be a bit honest here. I one foot of mine is in the pool of open source, of server open source, where one of the biggest things out there is CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, a foundation that is part of Linux Foundation. About half of the cloud native projects are actually either a part of it or at least in some way connected to CNCF. A lot of the duplication that happens in the world of desktop Linux, whether it be uh, CI/CD, whether it be community engagement, whether it be community management, and even project management, can be highly standardized, and CNCF does that for a lot of those projects. That's what we need. And like, if a CNCF project loses its maintainership, there always will be somebody to they can find to just step in interim. There is not like it's not like in a Linux desktop space or in outside of that CNCF world where if one maintainer disappears, everything goes away, or somebody else takes over and it's a giant mess, or it's a GA10 situation. That's where I think Linux and open source in general really fails, because
you
we're
are
not
on to
trying
something.
to combine things. Like
Yeah.
I've been saying for a long time, which I believe it was in episode 1, we should start opening foundations.
Yeah.
Whether it be,
I like
let's say
that idea.
for example, like we who are like in this sort of YouTube circle, and some of us write software or applications or bits like that. Why couldn't we all together start influencer open source influencer foundation, for
Yeah.
example,
And why
and
can't people that primarily
donate software
focus,
to that?
yeah, if you, we primarily, well, many of us in this space primarily focus on desktop Linux, right? Not Linux in
Yeah.
the server space, cloud space. Why can't we have the Linux Foundation, which is mainly for that corporate space, and we should have a Linux desktop foundation? How about that? That's what we
Yes.
need, right?
And you know what's funny? You know what's funny? I'm gonna tell you. If we could organize that, I bet we could get it under Linux Foundation. Get it as a part of Linux
Yeah,
Foundation.
because to use
If
the
we
name
actually
Linux,
organize,
right? Yeah,
not just that, but if we could actually get organized, I bet Linux Foundation would be interested in working with us, getting us some of their resources to
Well,
help us.
I tell you
Problem
who,
is we don't get organized.
if you could
We
get
we
Google
can't
on
get
board,
organized.
if you could get Google on board, because they have a Linux desktop, Chrome OS.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
could get them on board, they could run that Linux desktop foundation. Well, maybe not run it, but they could at least finance it.
Sure, like there are many, shall we say, customers for that. Like there's a lot of companies there. Like
Sure, IBM. Why not? Oracle.
yeah,
Why not? Right. So-
get all of them, like get all of them to work. But problem is that a Linux desktop just isn't like a lot of Linux desktop is actually like small projects.
Right.
They need to organize first before we can get those big companies.
well, there's
to
no
help
money
us.
in it. Right. Is the
Yeah,
problem.
that's the
There's no money
problem.
in it.
But believe me, money would be there if we actually started actually organizing. Because what else would happen? Let's say we get I don't know, I don't know. Let's say, and let's be clear. Even competitor products could be under the same foundation. We could have no foundation and KDE foundation be part of it. But the sub foundations, yes, they are competitors. Doesn't matter. And that could be a big part. And now we don't have to collect. KDE collects its own donations. GNOME collects its own donations. I don't know. XFC its own connections. OBS, Firefox. All. I'm just mentioning a bunch of programs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Like we could have one pool of donations, which is then it's more likely that those big corporate
Right.
people would start working
Especially-
with us, get big money, then we just split the money among them and get things like certain things we can pay with that money, we split the money for work and so on. It would be a better solution than what today happens is every project on its own asks for money.
The problem
Which-
too is these individual foundations and the hundreds in the open source community.
Yeah.
Most of them are not run by people that have any clue what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
For example, some of the ones that do a good job, Wikimedia, LibreOffice, and the Open Document Foundation, like VLC is fine, Blender, like some of the projects and organizations behind that stuff. But then you have complete disasters like Mozilla.
GNOME Foundation.
And GNOME.
Mozilla.
Like they run their projects into the ground. They can't manage money. They can't hire people, and it's like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Is you've got some organizations that are very responsible with what they do, and then some not so responsible in how they manage things. So, but if you had a central body, I mean, how would you? Does everybody deserve money? Like if Mozilla needs money, but I know they're going to just piss it away on just crap, right?
Well,
do you give them money, right?
And there we get to our best part ever, community consensus. Community gets to pick their own representatives.
Right.
Bigger donors get to pick their own representatives. Some of the bigger foundations get to pick their own representatives, and so on and so on and so on. We can make a governing body for it instead of letting.
Well, we need also to know where the money's going. Like if I know that 20% of all the donations that Mozilla is getting this year are going to pay the CEO, that might affect my decision to give them money, right? So,
Yeah, like responsible spending. All that gets included in that.
yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to be more purposeful in how we create Linux desktop.
Right.
And that's all. I'm like, you can have hundreds of distros. Problem is that we're not purposeful about it. Like, for example, I have my own image for uBlue, but I still helped out with uBlue. It wasn't that I was just, okay, now I'm my own silo, that's it. No, I was still purposeful in trying to get Ublu, the thing I'm basing my own image on, which you can get on my GitHub. I
The
was
license under the
purposeful.
MIT license?
I think so, yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure it's free and open source software.
I was purposeful in actually going and helping them, and not everything has to be like actual code contributions. All the time, what I did was I just smart test in their Discord server and said whether the PR is good or not, and like join the discussion. Stuff like that. All of that is a good contribution because, like, that's one of the big problems. Like, what we need is the approvers, the pull request approvers. Like, that's actually one thing why I want the foundations to be a thing, because
Yeah.
let's say I create a piece of software and you create a piece of software, DT. I can still, even despite not being much involved, look at your PRs and say, yeah, this is good, this isn't good. Or let's say you, for a couple of weeks, you step out, whether you have, like, say, a personal engagement or something, and a deluge of PRs still come in. I, despite working on my project, can still help you out and approve PRs for your project, because I can say, yeah, that code looks good, that code doesn't look good.
Well, I don't see why. I don't
like,
see why project maintainers can't do that now. If because many of them know other. Obviously, that they're familiar with other people that program. Yeah. So, hey, if I'm writing a program, let's just say I'm writing a project, it's in C++, and I got this other guy I've known for years online. He maintains a different piece of software, also written in C++. Hey, I'm going on vacation for the next month. Hey, would you mind just checking in on my GitHub or my GitLab and just, hey, the occasional issue, if you can deal with it, great. If you can't, I'll be back in a month. But if you can just help me out a little bit, and I'll do the same when I get back. You want to take a couple weeks off. Like, I get that kind of thing.
Well, I do agree, but that should be a thing that happens. Yes.
Yeah. And that's easy enough because you grant roles in GitHub and GitLab. Yeah. Like, you can grant access, temporary access to people even if you need to. So, yeah, I don't see why more people wouldn't do that.
But the reason I'm talking about having an like foundation behind it, so you have structure behind that. Like, you have people, even if you disappear, even if you're, let's say, burnout and you can't assign somebody. We
need a foundation.
You have behind you a backend. You have behind you essentially a net that will catch your project even if you disappear.
No,
even if you need burnout and you cannot touch a computer.
Here's where the foundation would be very useful. Open source projects that are abandoned.
Also that, yes.
Finding maintainers, because that is a real problem, because sometimes really important projects lose their maintainer, and it's hard to even get the word out that the project is essentially dead, right? Because, I mean, who goes to just GitHub and it just trolls through repos looking, nobody knows that. But if you had a big foundation that could get the word out, hey, Project X just lost its maintainer. They quit or they passed away. Hey, we need somebody. Does anybody want to step up?
And not just that, you could then easily have someone who could transition that project properly, whether it be into someone else's hands or properly transition it into end of life situation.
Yeah.
We would have like ways of transitioning projects, but yes, for that we would require to again organize, and that's for such a despite we talk about Linux community, in reality it's many communities that center around the same piece of software, Linux kernel.
Well, I did want to ask you, Bigpod, because I've mentioned the popularity of Linux obviously is really spiked here recently. Do you think that is because of the end of support for Windows 10? Do you think?
No.
You don't? Okay. I was just curious because you're more tuned into the Windows world, so.
There is some of that, but in general, it is the frustration of general Windows
Okay.
People want to do something else. Like whether it, yeah, part of that is the end of support, but does it really matter to most people? Remember, most people ran Windows 7 for years after it
Right.
was
After it
out of
end of life.
support.
Well, another thing that could have spiked it, now that I think about it, here in recent weeks, you've got a lot of really big YouTubers that are not necessarily Linux YouTubers trying Linux. I think, that's obviously getting millions and millions of views on YouTube that also get people interested that otherwise wouldn't be. So,
Yeah, and that is primarily spiked by things like SteamOS and Bazzite.
yes. Yeah.
Those two, in my opinion, of course, I'm
It's
gonna toot
gaming, right?
Bazzite.
It's
Yeah,
gaming.
of course, I'm gonna toot Bazzite's horn quite a bit since I was part of uBlue project, so that is a big part of uBlue. It's
But
Bazzite.
I've noticed like all of these people that try Linux for the first time, or maybe not the first time, but some of these bigger YouTubers that do a Linux. Hey, I'm finally installing Linux and giving it a try. It's all Arch Linux or Arch based distros, and
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting because that would not have been the case a few years ago, right? They're
yeah.
all on Arch. So,
There are a few reasons why. Mainly
it's
because that's
SteamOS. I
what
know
is,
the reason. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
SteamOS, and that's what Arch is. What it's talked about. What is popular
yeah,
on a popular search term. You're that's the thing. But
yeah.
like for people who are like purposeful in trying to switch, a lot of them use things like Bazzite because it is named as a like SteamOS, but actually supported on other hardware.
Yeah.
And I can say Team is great. So if you wanna do that gaming thing
Does it
more,
concern you that these people, the newer people, the gaming crowd, they've pretty much all but abandoned Debian? Like what
no.
happened to Debian Stable? That used to be the distro, and now it's almost,
That doesn't concern me at all because
because I would rather a new Linux user. I'd much rather them install Debian Stable than Arch Linux as their first distro.
that definitely because well it's Arch. I'm not a fan of Arch whatsoever.
I thought it was
But
Pac-Man that you weren't a fan of.
Pac-Man is a big part of it, yes.
Yeah.
But there are things that are like the Arch as a especially people behind it, how they package things, how it's done. It's all done in a very wrong way, in my opinion. And that brings very
Shots
bad
fired.
light to the distro. Like I think up till very recently, even packages in main repository could be built by the creator or the packager themselves on their own machine instead of a clean built environment, which to me is just insane. Sorry, it's insane.
Well, one of the things is sometimes with free software, you get a little bit too much freedom sometimes. More
Yes.
freedom than it's for your own good. So,
Yeah, like and here isn't for your own good. Here should be for the good of the users you have,
yeah.
which is something clearly they don't think about the security aspect of things. With that you have one target for getting to the supply chain, but at least
Yeah.
the one target can be highly secured instead of what are essentially people's own computers being which are for
Well,
all
how do you
intents and
think?
purposes unsecured.
How do you think? Not to circle back to the whole AI thing, but how do you think AI will affect security? Do you think it will improve security because now you've got these AIs in charge of, trying to detect, vulnerabilities and things like that?
It all depends on people who use it. It very much depends on people who. I think the big thing here will be be purposeful, because if the user of the AI is purposeful in what they're doing,
Yeah.
AI can be a very good tool even for security.
Yeah, I could
Maybe
see some of these AI tools, being basically your network admin. Because why
yeah,
not? They're going to be better
yeah.
at it than a human.
Noticing a blip instead of a human, instead of a whole bunch of humans sitting in a knock, it could be one human just waiting for a report from an AI who
Right.
can much easier look at all the data streams that form the pipe, that form the
Yeah.
graphs most operators in knock actually watch at. Not for those of you who do not know, it's Network Operations Center. It's all another one of the important ones would be SOC, the Security Operations Center, where people sit and wait for security issues to crop up. And big companies have such groups. So
You know, Bigpod, the other day, about a week ago, I realized I had never watched Mr. Robot, the
Really?
series. Because
have
people
I.
talk about it all the time, and it didn't seem like it would be anything I would be interested in. So it's on Netflix right now. So I started watching it about a week ago, and the first season I thought was really fascinating.
yeah,
And then I'm only a couple of shows into the second season, and it's dragging because now you get into the guy's whole schizophrenia, and it's hard to follow where in the hell anything is going because you got multiple personalities. And but anyway, but the first season was great because, you know, obviously there's a lot of Linux, a lot of networking stuff. You know, every time he's on a computer, you get to see he's using this core util and this, you know, he did a CH mod. That's so cool. And yeah, but yeah, and then there was this one scene, I think it was in the first episode, where somebody asked him, was he using GNOME or KDE? Which, you know, which is so cringy because, like, these are supposed to be like super hackers. Are they really talking
Yeah.
about GNOME and KDE? Like, would you
Yeah.
really be running that?
well, you might run no more KDE because well, what you're really running is essentially
You're running the TTY if you're a super hacker. Come on now.
not necessarily. You may want multiple windows and stuff like that. Because you may want a browser. you may
Tmux,
want that.
GNU Screen. You've got all
Well,
that.
you may need a browser. You may need this tool. You may need that tool.
Yeah,
But
because the Lynx browser is limiting. Let's be fair.
the catch is why you may actually run GNOME or KDE. It's because they are usable out of the box. You don't need, because a lot of hackers, you may actually buy a one-time use device.
Yeah.
You want it to be up and running as soon as possible with minimal things you need to do. So defaults matter, and sorry
sure.
to say, but defaults on window managers are not usable for most people. You need to customize. And that
Yeah,
just,
but you wouldn't get a
drags.
window manager installed on a machine. I've bought machines before with Linux pre-installed. They typically ask you what distro,
Yeah.
and then you get their default desktop.
Yeah,
If you tell them
and
Ubuntu, you're getting GNOME.
that
If you
should
tell them
be-
OpenSUSE, you're getting KDE, right? Like you're going to get whatever
And
ships out of the box.
And that kind of default needs to be good because and let's be realistic. Also, normal people live the same way. They may buy a computer for a long time, but they will use what is the default.
Yeah.
Because remember, most normal people aren't technical.
Yeah.
Even most gamers aren't technical.
I've even bought a couple of machines from manufacturers that primarily sell Windows machines. But you remember how you could used to get the Windows rebate or, you know, the Windows discount by just not getting that on your machine? They don't want to just send you a machine with no operating system on it. So if you tell them to wipe out Windows, they're going to probably put like a Linux distro on it just so you have something when it gets there. So I've had those.
That is because in many places you actually have to have
They have to give you
computer
something.
usable.
Right.
Have to have a computer usable at least to a
Because I've gotten a
minimal degree
machine.
it
I
needs
know
to
I
be
got a
usable.
machine one time that I booted up. I told them not to put Windows on it. And, you know, they shipped it to me. I got it, powered it up. Oh, Ubuntu. That's nice. USB stick, format the drive. Right? It went on to Arch. But, hey, that was cool. They, you know,
Here
had it
there is
there.
a lot of actual. They actually a lot of those that actually need to. They sell like even laptops like HP, at least used to. They sell a lot of it free DOS
Yes.
because it needs to be a usable computer.
Matter of fact, that is
Whether it is usable a lot doesn't matter. It has to be
to be
usable at
honest,
least
that's
to some
probably
degree.
most of the installations of FreeDOS are exactly
Yeah.
that. It's not from people actually wanting to use it. It's just something convenient for manufacturers or
Yeah.
hardware sellers to put on a system if they need to.
Yeah, but that is important. But they need to do that. It cannot just
Temple
be,
OS. I mean, they could just ship that, right?
or they could ship. They could ship Ubuntu.
So you know what? I'm glad I brought up Temple OS because the Mr. Robot guy being schizophrenic. I wonder if that was a nod to Terry Davis.
I don't know.
I don't know either because very similar, obviously.
Yeah.
As Anyway,
So, do you have any topic you want to talk about?
I think we covered pretty much the Linuxy stuff that I had in mind as far as some of what went on in Linux this year with the rise of our market share, the rise of AI. One last topic I guess we could briefly discuss, because I do think if there was any topic that was almost as big as AI, but not quite, the rise of Rust, specifically in Linux and free and open source software.
Yeah.
Rust is taking off. Now, last I checked, because occasionally I will check these metrics, still the most popular programming language, if you go look at some of the projects available on like Git forges and things like that, still Python and JavaScript are like the two, but
Of course.
Go and Rust are really rising in popularity. Like those two languages are coming on strong, Bigpod. So it makes me start to think that I need to learn a little Rust and maybe Go as well.
So with regards to Go, I know the reason why it's rising. I know the community that is getting, like, using Go a lot. It's that cloud native community. They like it all started with a few programs, and now everything uses Go because it is the language that they selected as the main language, and it's a pretty good language.
I tell you,
think most
even
people
though
should have it in their back pocket as a language.
I like Go as somebody that hasn't really learned it, reading the code, it's actually not bad. Like I like the syntax, I like the readability of it. Compared to Rust, I would much prefer Go over Rust, right? So there's that.
I know both to some degree, so I can say that Go is definitely much better. In that
Shots fired at Rust.
Well, not. I think it has its use case, and I think it is complicated. Yes, but it is complicated because it accomplishes a specific thing that is sorely needed. In that low-level code space, we required something that was, to some degree, acted in a similar way that at a higher-level language with a garbage collector does, which is what Rust essentially does. That memory safety aspects combined with actually compiler knowing what the hell you're doing and doing a lot of linting as a part of compilation step is actually a good thing.
Have you been surprised at the just overwhelming number of open source projects? Because we talked about duplication of work earlier. Some of these projects that are rewriting themselves just to be rewritten in Rust. Like if just because you wrote something in C or C++, why in the hell would you go and do a total rewrite? Like
yes and no.
Like I get the freedom. You're free to do whatever you want. But man, that seems like a gigantic waste of time to start from the beginning again to do the work you've already done.
Yes and no. While yes, it is a giant waste of time, it also served as essentially as a clean sheet approach to getting work done. So a lot of these projects are either stale and not getting a lot of work done because whether it be lack of engagement, lack of people wanting to work on it because it's written
lack of people that understand C. Is that where we're going?
And like in general, like drumming support for them and allowing them to go and maybe fix issues that might not be able to be fixed because people rely on them. And maybe adding new features, and especially now when POSIX is getting less and less cared about. Maybe
Yeah,
they
I
can
don't think anybody ever
actually,
really cared about it, to be honest. I mean,
yeah,
I think it always had a small like group of fanatics that yeah, we got to adhere to POSIX standards, but I still think the majority of people in the free and open source software space understood that hey, they're guidelines, they're not rules, they're
yeah,
just
and
guidelines, and if
even
you want to
and
break them,
even
that's fine.
and even breaking away from Unix standard. Like I don't remember who, but I remember somebody. I was listening to a talk, and they essentially said, "Unix is that. Remember that." And everything that came after Unix, that is Unix, like remember that it is essentially everything is a rounding error to Linux. So we shouldn't be listening, shouldn't be saying what Unix did. We should be seeing what Linux does. I paraphrased a bit, but that's the point. Like,
No,
like for
I
example,
totally agree with that. I've always had a problem with people that really wanted to talk about the heritage of Linux as far as being
yeah,
Unix, because Unix, for one thing, it was a proprietary operating system. So
I
the
don't think that
license,
matters.
well, it
It
does with
just
with the
another
kernel
Linux is the
development.
same, is a new thing. Yes, it's based on that. The ideas are based on, but that doesn't mean it has to always toe the exact same line Unix did.
Well, I'm
It can
just talking about
forge its own
development
path.
model. The development
Yeah,
model of the two projects is very different because of that
yeah,
licensing issue.
yeah.
So, you know, to compare Linux and Unix just based on that, I think is a little weird.
That definitely.
You know, so
Now, like I remember reading that people were really angry with, and are still now angry with Wayland for not wanting to wait for BSDs, not wanting to care what BSDs think.
I don't think BSD cares what Wayland
Yeah,
thinks. I
but
mean,
they are a certain they do to a certain degree want Wayland, but like remember Wayland is a Linux project. They don't care about BSD. If it they don't care if it isn't portable. If you can get it working there, okay, more power to you.
yeah,
But it isn't a
you're right.
whole of space open source space project. It is
But
a
they still
Linux
have
project.
X11, which is
Yeah,
a BSD or a Unix
yeah.
project because it started in the 80s when BSD was around, but Linux wasn't. So
And at
many
the
people,
same time,
yeah.
like there was a huge backlash for systemd because it did focus
On
specifically
Linux.
on Linux.
Yeah.
It used certain Linux only features,
Yeah.
and that was like a big deal because BSDs this,
It goes
BSDs
both
that,
ways. It goes
and
both
even
ways, Bigpod, because remember,
anti-Unix, because in many cases systemd is anti-Unix philosophy or Unix standard.
hey, well,
But
you
guess
remember we
what?
couldn't get a ZSH, or not ZSH, ZFS,
ZFS, but that
and
was
Linux.
licensing issue.
Yeah,
Not
but
a,
hey, if they had just licensed it under the GPL, everybody could use it, right? But you know they had to license it under the BSD license, so
well, that's I don't think that's the problem. BSD license, is pretty open.
it's a problem if you want to include it in the Linux kernel, though.
Okay, yeah, that's
That's the
true. Well,
problem.
depending on which BSD license,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, but I don't think that at the end of the day is the problem.
But
Like
it goes both ways. There's things that work in
Linux, yeah.
BSD that don't in Linux, and vice versa. So it's not a one-way street.
A great example of like systemd is it uses a lot of what is called C groups. That is a concept that doesn't exist in BSD or any other Unix-like operating system. That's a Linux only feature, and systemd went hard on it. The same way it went hard on capabilities, and that's what it was like hated against because it uses those Linux only features. But well, if they wanna support this piece of software, if they wanna be anywhere close to Linux, they need to support those features as well. Sorry, they are the rounding errors at the end of the day
Well,
when
they'll
it comes
they'll
to
they'll go their own
space.
route. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and that's what they should do. They should go
yeah,
their own route.
and that's what they're gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah, That's what they should do. Just like Linux went its own route when it comes to Unix, so should BSD go their own route to Linux. And we shouldn't expect software that works on Linux to work on BSD and other way around. Just out of the outset.
Yeah.
That you need to make a separate version for it. Does it hurt BSD? Yes. More than it hurts Linux.
Yeah.
Because, again, at the end of the day, BSD is a rounding error. But
it kind of is.
It's not on Linux to care for BSD in that way.
In some ways, the problem with BSD is simply market share.
Yes.
Like when it comes to, just computing in general, let's talk about the server space. Yeah, there's BSD servers, but Linux is the major player there. And because of that, all the development, all the money is on the Linux side, right? It's not on the BSD side.
Where BSD doesn't have things like Kubernetes, things like Docker, things that are like modern needed staples of server environment. Doesn't have them, and that's a big problem. So I think we have been rambling for long enough. What do you think, DT?
Yeah, I think we've exhausted the topic, right? Free and open source software, as well as some AI.
Yeah. So before we end the show, I'm gonna ask you, do you have any predictions for 2026 in space of Linux, tech, and sadly AI? But yeah, also AI.
AI, I don't, because I really wouldn't know what to predict, because it's hard to see where it's going. I think we're all going to be shocked at the places it goes, but I think that's a tough one to predict. With Linux, I will say our market share. It would not shock me if we were over 8% by the end of next year. It really wouldn't shock me if we were closer to that 10% number, the way things are going. So, which at that point, things become interesting, because then we start venturing into that Mac OS kind of number where people are like, well, why would anybody develop software for you? You don't even have as many users as Mac. Well, once we have those users, maybe Adobe. No, probably not Adobe, because that company sucks. But it would be nice if some of these companies would port their software to Linux. Well, I'm not predicting that, though.
An interesting prediction. Well, my prediction, and we're probably going to be sharing more predictions in the next
live stream episode, coming up on the 26th, guys. Hit the bell, get the notification.
Exactly. Well, honestly, my prediction is that Linux will, yes, grow. But it's also my prediction that there will be a huge shift in Linux in many ways. Many cases due to rise of AI. We will see AI-driven distros. We will see software that is. We will see a lot of software that is primarily meant to be or to augment the existing software to be AI controlled.
I want an AI shell, and that's what I want.
I think that kind of thing will come in 2026, and it's gonna be a horrible.
You don't even need to know the core utils anymore. You just tell the AI, "Hey, I need this done," and it'll do it for you.
Also, I think in 2026 the bubble will burst. The AI bubble, it will burst, and it will leave a lot of damage behind. But what will remain will be a good thing.
Yeah.
So
that could be interesting.
So I think at this point,
Bigpod, I'd like to take the time to thank you for hanging out with me on this episode of No Tux Allowed. I appreciate you. Always good to have you as a guest on the show. For those of you that are watching the podcast on YouTube, go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you can. We want that engagement. For those of you listening to the audio-only version of the podcast, please, whatever platform you're listening, give us a 5-star rating or a thumbs up, because that'll help us rise in the algorithms, because I want my No Tux Allowed podcast to grow in popularity. I want us to dominate the Linux space in the podcasting world. Anything from you, Bigpod, on our way out?
Well, I have a question for you. Where they can find you?
Well, if you're looking for me, you'd find me at Distrotube on YouTube. You'd also find me at Distrotube on Odyssey if you prefer to watch my videos over there. Other than that, that's pretty much the only place I hang out. I'm not much of a social media guy. I don't have a Facebook or a Twitter or any of that kind of garbage. Got a Mastodon account. I'm on Fostodon. I'm Distrotube at Fostodon, but I don't really hang out there much. But you know, I get the occasional message. Sometimes I'll respond. Sometimes I won't.
Well, if you wanna hit up me and Josh, you can check. You can send us an email at contact@tuxbase.com, and we're gonna answer you, happily answer you.
I'll put you and Josh's information. I'm going to put that in the show description.
And me and Josh can also be found on our own Mastodon instance, tuxbase.com. Check it out at I am at Bigpod at tuxbase.com, and Josh, I believe, at 10lj at tuxbase.com. Both of us also have our YouTube channels, Bigpod and 10lj. And once again, a pitch for our Patreon. Please do check it out. Maybe if your wallet allows and you're willing, do give us that patronage. And another ad pitch, essentially, if you have a podcast or you want to create a podcast, you can contact at tuxbase.com, and we can talk about hosting your podcast on show.tuxbase.com.
Very cool.
And DT, say goodbye, and then I'm gonna end the show.
All right. Bye-bye, guys. Peace.
Bye, everybody.